When it comes to happiness, the internet and the self-help sections at your local bookstores are bursting at the seams with advice on how to be happy. And don't get us wrong, there are a lot of great ideas out there, but what we've learned so far is that happiness is actually a very personal journey. It is not like the barber's seat, a one-size-fits-all. Now, though I think the journey to be pure bliss is a marathon and not a sprint, there are 5 lessons that have stuck with me and helped me to become an all-round happier person. This morning's piece, by the way, written by Melissa Grace and published on thoughtcatalog.com. Lesson number 1. Expectation is the root of all evil in every aspect of life. I mean, seriously, our expectations rarely take into account that we are all flawed human beings and that, frankly, some things sometimes just happen. Whether we realize it or not, we often expect a lot from ourselves and from other people. Maybe you have a friend that didn't show up for you in the exact way that you wanted them to. Maybe you expected to be married with, the typical 2.5 kids, a white picket fence and a dog by the time you turn 30, but you're still single. Maybe you expected that you'd be a well-known author by now, but in reality, the most compelling things you've written is your next grocery list. And now you're disappointed. Now you're disappointed because you don't have a novel, you aren't married, and your friends aren't meeting your needs. Let's unpack this just a little bit. When we set these expectations, more often than not, they won't come to fruition, at least not exactly how we want them to, because when we expect something, we have a clear vision of what that looks like, and reality does not often measure up. So I say to you this morning, instead of having high expectations, have high standards. Have friends in your life that you can count on who love you, even if they're not perfect 100% of the time. Don't settle for someone just so you can reach some arbitrary age goal. And practice every day to hone your skills. When we set our standards high, we are focusing on the quality of our goals, who we want to be, and what we want, instead of the exact way that these things have to be realized. The second lesson is to allow yourself to just be exactly where you are. There's a lot of reasons to love The Office, but one of the things I love most is the little nugget of wisdom that came by way of Andy Bernard when he said, "I wish there was a way to know you were in the good old days before you've already left them." Well, Andy, there is. We are in them right now. But we often get so bogged down with trying to figure out our next moves, our next goals, our next, that we blink and we miss these good old days. We think to ourselves, I'll be happy when I lose the weight, when I get the job, when I pass the test, get the promotion, get the degree, or win the award. But in reality, we rarely so much as pause to savor these moments because we're already thinking about the next hurdle to jump through. And y'all, there's a lot of joy between these hurdles. Now, by all means, have all the goals you want. Don't stop believing. But also don't stop living in the space between your goals, because that is where the magic happens, That is where you grow, where you push, you learn, you cry, you become the person that you were meant to be. And that is not nothing. The third lesson is that being rejected doesn't mean that you're not talented or worthy. A few months ago, I had an interview with a very talented and successful blogger I admire about potentially joining her team. The interview went great and we clicked so well that when the conversation ended after talking for a couple of hours, she was ready to hire me. However, I encouraged her to go through with interviewing her other prospects. We left it in a way that I felt the job was mine and I was elated. But fast forward to the next day, after interviewing the next candidate, though she still felt I was a better fit for her, she had decided to go with this other person because there was one skill that person had that I didn't yet have, and it was a skill that she really needed right now. I told her that I understood, and then proceeded to get off the phone and sob myself into a bag of chips, basically. And in a flurry of orange chip dust, I surmised that I simply wasn't good enough, and I was terrible at my job, and I was a terrible writer, and I had a really bad skin, and my hair was dry, and everything in my closet looked stupid on me, and the only people who love me are my dogs, and that's just because I feed them, and I am the worst, and the list just went on and on. Now, do you see how quickly that spiraled out of control? Listen, whether we get rejected by a friend or a potential job, it is hard not to let that turn into an avalanche of destructive self-talk. At the end of the day, that job just wasn't for me. But that didn't make me any less talented or any less of a human being. And this is something that we all need to remember. Lesson number 4. Let yourself feel the bad things. Now, I know that might seem a bit counterproductive, especially if you're searching for and seeking happiness. But listen, just because I'm happier doesn't mean that every day is sunshine and rainbows and money trees, Happy people don't always have happy days. It doesn't mean that happy people don't get upset or sad. It just means that we don't live in the sadness and in the vexation. Take the incident that I just spoke about. I lived there in that rejected state of chip-covered despair for far too long. Instead, I could have used that as a fuel for my fire. I could have dusted myself off, learned a new skill, the one that was lacking maybe, kept searching for other gigs and moved forward. Instead, I let myself sit there and wallow in self-pity. Something that we all do, and y'all, this is not cute. This is not good. More recently, my relationship with a client came to an end because my services weren't really needed any longer because their vision had changed. At first, I felt rejected and bummed out. Once again, my heart threatened to wallow into a bag of potato chips. But when I sat back and took stock of the situation, I realized how much that job had taught me about myself, my professional and personal boundaries, and that frankly, I'm really good at what I do. It wasn't just an end of something, it was also a beginning. Which now leads me to the last and 5th lesson. Let go of things and people that are not for you. Let me say that again. Let go of things and people that are not for you. Now, that might be difficult for some because you're not letter-goers. Many of us will try to resuscitate a dead relationship or situation until we are both out of oxygen. Some people, some situations just aren't going to get better. They aren't going to be for us no matter how hard we try. But I have now begun to figure out how to discern the difference. Ask yourself, do I feel happy in this situation with this person? Do I feel challenged? Am I learning something? Or do I feel anxious, belittled, or unimportant? When I think about this situation or person, do I feel sad? Do I feel resentful? Do I feel angry? Am I serving this person or situation, or are they serving me? A friend once gave me some advice that really stuck with me. If it costs you your peace, then it is too expensive. I know exactly when I'm not following that advice, and I'll bet that you do too. Your heart will feel troubled and uneasy, and that anxiety can bleed over into the rest of your life. We are all emotional or on an emotional and mental budget. Spend wisely and let go of the people and things that you need to. Spend your love, your worry, and your time wisely. Remember these 5 lessons, for they have taught me well, and I hope that they have been of value to you as well.